Oh my goodness, we were just talking before this. We have not done this in a while. And
It's been
you
a
just
while.
reminded me, we haven't, before St. George, 70.3.
I know it's kind of like I was feeling really bad that we hadn't been able to connect it, but between St. George and then, I both of us had the end of the semester stuff going on, and then I went to Ireland for a couple weeks. Then I was sick. I'm
Yeah,
still sick in my voice a little bit. So yeah, it feels really good to be back.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah, we definitely got out of our habit in terms of trying to meet on a weekly basis. We're doing really good for a long time, but then this past year, it's been one thing after another that has just interfered with either me not making it or you not making it. And, but we are back. But you did just get back from a trip, which is why we didn't do last week. So it's your fault last week. But you had a wonderful trip overseas.
Yeah, we went to Ireland for 2 weeks, and it was so good. I brought my bike, and the biking was just so amazing. And I didn't bike with anyone. I just was by myself and built routes on Strava, and
Mhm.
just kind of looked at like where the locals were riding and found some amazing places to ride. I highly suggest it, but bring your rain gear if you go.
Mhm.
And but it was really good. The roads were amazing.
Mhm.
Um, I was telling you offline, even the like the small farm roads
Mhm.
were good shape. The other thing that was really interesting, a few little idiosyncrasies. So I'll just tell you the story. So I got there and I realized I forgot my bike computer and my radar.
Oh, okay.
Riding with a radar because I'm really into that now. Like,
Yeah.
so I was freaking out. I'm like, I don't have a radar. So first few days we are in Dublin, and I was riding the second day we were there, and I was like, I'm gonna find a bike radar. I'll just buy one. I don't care, really. I want one. And I went to pretty much every shop in downtown Dublin, and nobody even knew what a radar was.
Oh, interesting. They don't need it.
They're like, no. And then finally, one guy, I can order you one, and it'll be here maybe next week. I'm like, no, I'm good.
Mhm.
And so interesting that nobody has radars. And then most people I saw riding didn't have a tail light.
Oh, interesting. So
And so I
what's the
bought,
relationship between cars and bikes over there?
so it's really good,
Is it?
very respectful,
Hmm.
almost unnervingly because people are like behind you and they won't pass you.
Hmm.
They don't get upset with you, and
Hmm.
they just sit there. And so, but because like I didn't have a radar, but I could still sense when they're behind you.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what is going on here? Like, why
Hmm.
are these people not getting upset? Why are they not? And they would just sit there for like 5 minutes behind as you're riding. And there was some places there wasn't good places to pull over. Like I always would try and pull over
Yeah.
if I could, but
Yeah.
some places you just can't pull over. And but yeah, and it wasn't just me because I'd see other people that were doing it. And when we were driving around, also that was the norm. And it wasn't just bikes. It was like because I was off on like farming roads a lot.
Hmm.
Um, it was like the farm equipment too. Like if someone's got a tractor, people just wait.
Yeah.
Um, very, it
It's
was very
interesting.
cool.
When I biked over in Europe, a few times, I think in Mallorca, Spain, I always felt so safe, even on these small roads, and everybody was doing just as you said. They were just wait for me or wait for a spot to pass, as
Yep.
opposed to rushing by. What do you think the difference is in terms of U.S.? And unfortunately, we don't have a great reputation for cars and bikes getting along.
I don't know. It's just a patience thing, or
Hmm.
they recognize that like, hey, like this person's on a bicycle and I can kill them really easily, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
I don't know. Or maybe it's the social contract of having like socialized medicine and like, hey, if I run this person off the road, I'm gonna have to pay for them anyways.
Hmm.
I mean, honestly, I don't know what it is. The other thing that was interesting is a lot of people not wearing helmets.
Oh, really? Interesting.
A lot of people not wearing helmets.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And and maybe once again, it's like one of the reasons I wear a helmet is for like cars. And
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I also thought maybe it's because a lot of drivers also bike.
could be.
When I'm driving, I am hyper aware. I try to be hyper aware of looking for, oh, there's a bike lane here. I better check my right mirror in case someone comes whizzing by me or something like, we're going to make a right turn. And uh, I wonder, that's what I was wondering is it more likely that cycling is ingrained in the sport world there and are a lot of people cycling, and therefore that bleeds over in terms of driving.
There's a lot more, all, and I think we know this, but in Europe, there's a lot more cycling infrastructure already built in too.
Yeah, yeah.
But even on the roads that it's not built in, it feels like maybe the people are just used to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but once again, it was amazing. I had a great time. I
Let's
wish I
get
could
the
have
U.S.
rode
in
more.
order with that. That's we got to change everyone.
We can't even build a bike path to Red Rock,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, how are we going to get our infrastructure built up?
yeah. Right, right. That's frustrating.
And
All right. So,
but I would also contend that Las Vegas is better than most places in the United States.
hmm
You know,
hmm
like I've ridden a lot of places, and we've got good bike lanes for the most part, and we've
Yeah,
got some
yeah,
bike paths. There's
yeah.
a lot of places there's no bike lanes, and
That's true. That's
so
true. So
people
you
are
mentioned the radar, and that you've gotten into using. I haven't used it at all. You actually like that?
I love the radar. I think it's such a game changer. It's not like it's not really like when you're on like a busy road.
hmm
The roads that I was on, especially when I was in Ireland, you wouldn't have a car for like 5 or 10 minutes,
mm
and so you kind of get lulled to sleep, right? And
Yeah.
the radar beeps, and then you can see on your bike computer how far the person is away,
Oh, okay.
and you just kind of like, okay, they're coming up behind me, and then
Yeah.
you make a conscious effort to move even more over to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I noticed even when I was riding in, actually it's anywhere where there's not a ton of cars,
hmm
right?
hmm
And even like when I'm commuting here and I'm doing some commuting here with it on, you go on the side streets and you think there's no one around you, and then all of a sudden it beeps and like, oh, okay, someone's coming up pretty fast behind me.
hmm
I make
hmm
sure to move over as far as I
Yeah.
can. Yeah, I'm a big fan, and the cost of them, like they're $150.
Oh, wow, that's dropped quite a bit.
So
Yeah.
it's for the price, I
hmm
think it's great. The only thing I don't like, the one that I have, and I don't know if the Wahoo just came out with one,
hmm
is I don't like it where I'm on, like if I'm on the freeway or the not the freeway, like a highway, there's a lot of cars, it just keeps beeping over and over.
Mm.
I wish there was a way just to silence it.
Yeah, yeah, right, right.
It does get annoying. Like I'm on 159 going out to Red Rock Canyon or whatever, and it's just car after car. It's not
Mm-hmm.
helping me
Mm-hmm.
more when it's the more odd cars coming out at you.
Interesting. And battery life's pretty good.
Yeah, I just plug it in every night. It's like a USB. I plug it in after. Kind of like when you plug in your bike computer, I just plug it into.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm a big advocate for it for sure.
So you mentioned Strava, which we both use. You use it far more than I do, and you know it a lot more, all the different features. But Strava also helps you gauge your intensity, and you and I were sent a article on how to manage or how to record your training load, or the whole, this is the holy grail of coaching and training, is how do you account for training load? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No. Yeah. This article was really interesting because it was an Outside magazine,
Yep.
right? Or Outside online magazine.
Mhm.
It's a good source of information. I've read quite a few articles from there, and it was basically, yeah, trying to figure out like what's the best way.
Mhm.
And it went through several. It was an article of an article, but it went through several different ways of measuring load. And we've talked before about the TRIMP method, which
Mhm.
basically takes into account the length that you go versus the intensity.
Mhm.
And that's what we're always trying to figure out is like how long should I train and how hard should I train? I mean, and how often, right? What else is there?
Mhm. No, and that's fantastic. And you use Strava and Training Peaks,
Right.
and they each have their proprietary training load indicator. I'm just curious, what do you think? Do they agree with each other, or are they? Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very much so.
hmm
The only thing with Strava is it doesn't do the swimming. So like it doesn't add the load of swimming.
Okay.
As Training Peaks, I like Training Peaks better because it adds in like the swimming.
hmm
Um, and then you can also like add in like training load for other things, like if you went for a hike or you went, which like once again Strava can collect that data, but it doesn't put it into their like their fatigue level or their fitness
hmm
level. They only do biking and running.
And so this article really, as you said, it talks about a lot of different ways to quantify training load, but more importantly, the different devices we have to measure something that can then be put into a algorithm to estimate your training load.
And potentially tell you what you should do next.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. What should you take a day off? Do more? Do this?
So, John, I'm going to ask you, how many devices have you ever used that
Yeah.
attempt to do something along this line?
So I know far fewer than you, but
Oh, but you've been doing this a lot longer than me. When did you get your first heart rate monitor?
yeah. Well, I started with a heart rate monitor back in the 80s, and that was so cool to have heart rate that you were able to get. Heart rate monitors were super expensive back then. I don't remember how much, it was like a couple $100 to get a heart rate monitor. And that was the cool thing to have. And then you look at your heart rate. But even before that, I would just use my watch, my Timex Ironman watch that had 7 laps to it that you could do, push the lap feature and you get splits, or then it got to 20 laps or something like that. And that was, I was able to track my pace. Remember, nothing was uploaded to anything. There was no computer back then. This is all just looking at data and, scrolling through my lap features after I'm done and writing them down in a log. So watch for pace, heart rate monitor. But then as we got to some more advanced technology that's portable, that's where, got the power meter. What else did I try?
Do you have anything for swimming?
Swimming's always been hard, but I did use the heads-up display for a while to track the GPS part of.
I'm saying back in the day, like 20 years ago, was there anything? Pace clock.
No, that's about it. Yeah, it was pace clock because nothing was waterproof. Back in the day, I was actually really interested in core temperature when swimming. So it's funny, I'm actually researching that now. But it was really not something easy to get for any of the products.
I can even remember back like 20 years ago when I was working with the swim teams, or longer than that, they were doing heart rate. So they were doing like just like manual heart rate. Like they'd finish their set,
That's right.
they would put their fingers on
Swimming
their.
heart rate back then was not easy. And you would still, for the most part, you try to use the strap, but then you would wear this harness to hold the strap on because the strap falls off. As you're swimming and pushing off the wall, it changes the chest volume. And that was really difficult to get heart rate. And so you're right. A lot of studies would be just manual heart rate.
But even training, like not even a study, like just people training, like
Yeah.
they were looking at like heart rate recovery. So
Mhm.
they would do, let's say, I don't know, 200, and then they would wait till the heart rate went to a certain point to do their next set.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
people were, like what I'm getting at is we've been monitoring athletes, and athletes have been monitoring themselves as long as there's been athletics and something we can monitor, right?
That's right.
And we've almost always in running been able to do pace because people are running on tracks, right?
Hmm.
And so they had a time. It was something that it was back in the day. It was a big clock,
Yep.
right? And you get a clock at your track, and okay, I'm going to do 2 laps. How fast am I going to do it? And that would tell you your pace.
Hmm.
And so it's been over 100 years of people trying to quantify. That's what we're talking about, right? Trying to quantify training load, and then trying to predict what it's going to do to you. Is it going to
Minimize the risk of injury.
is this training going to make you faster, or make
Hmm.
you slower, or is it going to injure you,
Yeah.
or is
Hmm.
it going to do nothing at all?
Yeah.
And we just keep adding more and more metrics to what we are measuring. And I'll throw this out at you. It's actually creating so much noise now
It is. Yeah.
that it's actually becoming, as a coach, it's becoming more of a problem
Hmm.
to try and collect. Well, not to collect the data. Collecting the data is easy. Right? We have all these
Hmm.
things that are collecting data, but
Yeah.
what's meaningful and what's useful is really difficult to ascertain.
Well, and to your point, these devices are trying to come up with an objective way to identify what the training load is. And what's interesting is this paper, the paper that this paper talks about, they're basically saying, okay, great to have the objective stuff, but at the end of the day, that's no better than your subjective rating of how hard you felt exercise was.
Yeah, and we could all do this, right? Like the as I was reading this, I was thinking about it. Like I ran a few 5Ks recently,
Mm-hmm.
and I did one when I was in Ireland. It was great, and after that 5K, I was done for the day.
Mm-hmm.
That was 20 minutes of hard effort. Now, how does that equate to a 70.3?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
During it, it felt way worse.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
gonna be completely honest with you. It felt way worse at about
Yeah.
15 minutes
Red
in.
line.
I'm thinking I'm gonna throw up, and
Mm-hmm.
like, and then the rest of the day, I wasn't maybe as tired as I would have been with the 70.3, but I was still pretty fatigued.
Yeah.
This is what this paper was trying to say is like, basically these things aren't training loads aren't equal,
Mm-hmm.
and there's basically no way to say, hey, this 20-minute effort is the same physiologic load as a 2-hour effort at a different at a lower pace. But that's what a lot of the programs are trying to do, is give you a number
That's
and
right.
say those two things were equal. 2 hours super easy is equal to 20 minutes super hard, but they're not, because of we're training actually different physiologic systems.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a different, yeah, different levers we're pulling there. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's also the different mental side. Like I just said, like being at the edge of throwing up and redlining is a way different feeling than even if I run for 2 hours to the point where I'm basically super fatigued.
Right.
Like, but I didn't put that kind of stress on my system.
Well, and what I liked about this article was that they also talked about the importance of consistency in training and how do you build in this training load, because it's one thing to do training load for one day and come up with an algorithm for that. But then you've got to figure in the next day and the next day and the next day. And, can you come up with a way to say, oh, you did too much. Now you got to take 3 days off. And that's something that we should avoid for the most part. You and I talked quite a bit about the benefits of consistent training. So how do you find that objective way to help guide you? Because in essence, we're terrible at subjective. Oh, sorry, I'm setting myself up here. We're terrible at being our own coach and reining ourselves in. And well, we got to get something up on Strava. We got to get something in Training Peaks. We got to get all this data up. Hardly anyone goes and looks at the data afterwards. But you got to see the numbers in terms of normalized power this or fatigue index and what have you. But what I liked about the paper, that the research study, they actually went back and looked at NASA's subjective rating of, actually what they were doing was looking at the subjective rating of simulation exercises that astronauts were going through. And that involved the physical component, pushing and pulling levers, like sort of like what you were talking about. It involved a mental component, a accuracy component, a pressure component. I'm forgetting some of them, but it was like 7 different domains that they were bringing in some of the psychological aspects of doing something and then counting that towards a training load.
Yep. So, and I think we've known this for a long time. Just in our own heads, how we feel after we train matters,
Uh,
right?
mhm.
And if you do, once again, a 2-hour run and you are just, it was hard and it was hard to finish, and there were sections when I can't finish.
No.
When you get done, you're like, that was a hard workout.
Yeah.
Or the 2-hour easy run,
Mm-hmm.
finish and you feel better. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what, the next day's training will be impacted differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And it's based off of how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
right? And even we could take it a step forward, the next morning, how you feel, it matters too, right? And I think a lot of times we look at it as, well, the metrics say I should feel good tomorrow morning.
Mm-hmm.
I should be able to go do the next workout of, like, I don't know, like 5 by 5 minute workout. And then you wake up and like, I am done. I'm so fatigued. There's no way I could do that. And it. And John, I'll actually take it a step further. In coaching, it's really, really hard to do this because I'm trying to predict a week or two out sometimes how
Yeah.
someone's going to feel to do like one of the more cornerstone workouts of the week. And I'm trying to find spots where they're actually more recovered to actually do those efforts.
Right.
And there's so many pieces of information that I can't get.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know you, and I know you don't just rely on the data that's uploaded to Training Peaks, because that is only one piece or several pieces, but there's still the subjective part that you try to account for in building out a program, because that subjective part is so incredibly important.
So I try and get my athletes to send me messages like, hey, when
Mhm.
you're struggling, send me a message. When
Yeah.
things are really good, send me a message. Some are
Hmm.
really good about it, some are not so good about it. And the ones that are not good about it makes it a little bit more difficult, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's and it's funny too, because like some athletes that even with their own coach, they don't want to complain.
Sure. Right. Right. Right.
I don't
Yeah.
want to complain. And I have to remind them, you're not complaining, you're giving me information.
Yeah. Right.
Like that workout was really hard, it kicked my butt.
Hmm.
I need to know that, right?
Hmm.
Or the next morning you wake up like I am still fatigued from the day before.
Yeah.
That, and then we can make adjustments
Yeah.
rather than okay, let's just go to the next one and go to the next one, and you dig yourself into a hole. And we can do it ourselves too. And I've seen athletes do this, and when I first started in triathlon, I was following like just a book, a program,
Hmm.
and I would try and every day like whatever the book said, I'm going to do. And there would be days where I probably really shouldn't have done what the book said.
Hmm.
It's like, well, I don't know anything. I don't know enough about this. The book says do this. Well, I'm gonna do it. And I think people can really get caught up in that. And then to a piece further, like you were saying, well, I want to have another awesome post on Strava.
Yeah. Right. 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 Well, and there, know thyself. You got to know yourself in terms of how you feel during, before, after a workout. But what you just said really made me think about how, as a coach, do you tease out how people communicate? Because if I say, "Oh, that was a hard workout," that might mean something different than someone else who says, "Oh, that was a hard work." We use the same words, but we may mean a different thing. So, how, as a coach, I don't want you to give away the secret sauce, but how do you coach the athlete so that you can understand what they're telling you subjectively?
You got to know them.
Yeah, yeah.
That's like I try my very best to get to know all the athletes I work with
Hmm.
on a personal level.
Yeah.
And so even to the point where when I text them like, "Hey, how are your legs feeling today?" Their
Hmm.
response, even in a text, I can read something into it,
Yeah.
right? Because I've spent time with them socially, um, and I think that actually matters.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it 100% subjective, and I think that as everyone's thinking about and pushing this whole idea of training 3.0, which is like the AI model,
Hmm.
and I don't know. Maybe one day we'll get there, but
Yeah.
I don't like. How can an AI get to know you?
Yeah. Right.
And once again, it's often just little texts or like I'll look at someone's training, for example, and I'll look at like a week's worth of data, and like, okay, well, they weren't able to finish that workout well. They weren't able to finish that workout well. Okay, now I'm going to shoot a message. Hey, what's going on? How are you doing? Oh man, the workouts this week have been really hard. Okay,
Mm.
well, what's going on in your life? Right, and then you can
Yeah.
help to tease that stuff out. And where I don't know an AI can do that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Can actually start to figure out like what else is going on in your life. Hey, I'm not sleeping well. Work's been horrible. My boss has been
Right.
on me. My kids, my kid got arrested. That's happened with when I go.
Hmm.
My kid got arrested. I'm like, well, that you need to take care of that, right? Like
Hmm.
that's pretty important stuff,
Yeah.
and we can expect your training to be great around that. Um, but John, that's difficult stuff, and some people are like that I've worked with are more willing to share, and some people are less willing,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
that's okay. You know, that's okay.
Well, that's what's interesting about that NASA um, survey, or it's like an reading a perceived exertion scale, but it's a little bit more, dialing into some different domains, because there's a mental aspect with doing some of the simulation work that they have. But I also think that's important because a lot of us are working. We're not professional athletes, and we've got a job, we've got family, we've got commitments, and there is that mental component of that influences training. And sometimes we, as our as our self-coached athletes, we don't see it, and it may be building up an extra training load that you're not accounting for, you as the athlete. This wasn't supposed to be a coaching commercial, but this is what the benefit of a coach is that they are an objective perspective of, if you've matched up well with your coach, which is something you and I really strongly believe in, is athletes have to match with their coach. If they don't match with their coach, you're losing out a big part of the benefit of having someone to help guide you through your journey.
Yeah. It's deep stuff. And the one other thing that actually was in the thing that you didn't mention, they actually asked about how much pressure the person felt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's another one that I think we don't do a good job in triathlon is thinking about the pressure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's self-imposed pressure a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Pressure to perform.
Yeah.
But then if you have a coach, the pressure to do the workout well.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a coach, same thing, like the pressure to do the workout the best that you can do. And then I think sometimes there's more pressure than others. Like right now, I don't have a big race on the calendar till like November. So I'm not feeling a lot of, like, I'm sick, but I'm not feeling a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
If I had signed up for Coeur d'Alene, which I'd planned on, but I decided not to race Coeur d'Alene. I'd be feeling a lot of pressure with Coeur d'Alene next week and me not training for like 12 days, right? And there would be probably the pressure. I probably would have trained a couple days ago. Being even sick, I probably would have trained because of pressure.
Yeah.
And I think that that's another component that they were trying to tease out. And they made a mention of, well, most athletes don't have like pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot too.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great point. Is that, if you got a race on a calendar and you're thinking, oh, I got 12 weeks, I got 11 weeks. Oh my goodness, I got 5 weeks left. That is a pressure there. And there's the other pressure is, and we've talked a lot about this, is the pressure of uploading a fast average time on the bike, to Strava, or, a running pace that, people will say, oh, that's great. In essence, that is where that type of electronic social media can be really damaging to certain people. I think the more you get away from, I don't care. No, and nobody really cares what you're doing. I know I'm being so negative right now, but it's not. Your training program is your training program, and I think when you get to a point where you're like, I can upload anything and it doesn't bother me, that does take care of that pressure element. But I like the other pressure element you're talking about in terms of scheduling for a race and trying to hit the right workouts at the right time, and not have something upset that schedule.
Yeah. And once again, even the pressure of one workout.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? You see this if you're coached or even not coached.
I'm not hitting my numbers.
Especially if you see like one thing. It's like this week, the big thing is like the 5x5.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the coach is really going to be looking. Everything else is easy this week except for this one thing. So I know they're really going to be looking. I have to perform.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not good, right? Like if you're ready and you're well recovered and whatever, that's great. The other area that there's a lot of pressure that builds into the system that I don't think we recognize is, and I don't do a lot of this, but a lot of coaches do a lot of testing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like, FTP testing and run pace testing. And I find that provides too much pressure for people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. The race is enough. Right. And we can get data from the race and we can extrapolate data from other like sub-maximal efforts or other maximal efforts where we're not calling it a test.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I know there's people out there that they do an FTP test every 6 weeks.
Okay.
And they use it like, oh, well, the training's going well.
Yeah.
Because we're improving. But what if it goes bad? Like, what if that FTP test goes bad?
Mm-hmm.
Then all this training, the FTP test goes bad. Oh, what we did wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe it's not working, but maybe there was other things that led up to them not doing well that day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a snapshot. It's a one-day thing.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be careful on, once again, on the metrics
Mm.
and what we're reading with those metrics.
Mm. Well, it's funny when I read that article that was sent to us, I looked at it and said, "Well, I'm really old school, so I really rely a lot on subjective feelings, not only training but racing, and so, but that's just my nature of starting years ago where I didn't have access to a lot of these metrics, although we can measure them now, and it's really super cool, but it's not easy just relying on those objective measures to come up with that training load."
The other one I was talking about was heart rate variability
Yeah.
and how potentially it wasn't super predictive of how you're actually feeling,
Yeah.
how you actually do. So we talked a little bit once again offline about, I used to wear a Whoop strap. I did for years, and I wore an Aura ring. I wore them at the same time for a long time, mostly because I was interested because athletes that I was working with or we're teaching about these things in our athletic training program at UNLV. And I actually learned very little from from these things. I
Mm-hmm.
learned originally that I wasn't sleeping very well, but I knew I wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it helped stimulate me to do some very simple things to try and help me sleep better. But realistically, it would tell me you're tired. Yeah, I know I'm tired. I feel like I feel it. But then there would be days would say I was tired and I felt great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now more and more research is coming out on these things and actually showing that day to day they're not very good.
Mm-hmm.
Trends over time can be okay and can be
Mm-hmm.
potentially better. And if you are doing things in your life that are very detrimental to your recovery, they can matter. So
Mm-hmm.
you learning about yourself. So the one that always comes up is the alcohol, and that when people drink, then their recovery is worse, and it shows up on HRV really, really
Mm-hmm.
well. So if that could change behaviors, so you don't drink,
Mm-hmm.
when you're trying to recover, maybe that's a good thing. But then once you figure that out, you still need to keep wearing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I know that every time I go out and have 2 beers, my recovery is horrible the next day, do I need it to tell me 30 times? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, I think you can learn. And once again, there's lots of people I know that wear them all the time and they find them very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's not as good as the people that are selling these things proclaim them to be.
Well, yeah, I agree with that, and I would maybe frame it a little different in that the metrics, the objective tools are better if you can tie in the subjective part. And that subjective part, I think, for some period of time has sort of been pushed aside on and sort of, that's not going to be helpful. Well, at the end of the day, I think it is helpful and it may help interpret some of the objective data more accurately. And so I think we'll see this pendulum swing back towards more reading of perceived exertion and psychological measures of things that are important. I think we're already seeing it in the work that you're doing. And
Yeah, but I also say like this article is comparing one versus the other,
yeah.
right? What about combining, like you're saying,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
taking the best of both worlds, and that's what I'm doing a lot of times when I'm coaching. People are putting in subjective data,
Mm-hmm.
smiley faces, not smiley
Yeah,
faces,
right.
whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and but I'm also seeing the data,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that probably the right answer is a combination of both.
Yep, I agree.
Really get at it, and in the article it didn't mention that. It was just, well, what pieces are better, and then
Mm-hmm.
we see this all the time. When we see research, right? We try and, like, this, you've done a lot more research than I have. We have to tease out one thing we're trying to find out, and that's nuanced, and that's oftentimes why research doesn't really apply really well to the real world. Is we're pulling 17 different levers at once,
Yeah.
and we don't recognize we're pulling all these things. And
Mm-hmm.
I made this one change. Was that the thing that actually caused the change?
Right. Right. Hard to know. But bottom line, You got to enjoy what you're doing, and you got to be consistent.
And honestly, if you wake up and you don't feel like training,
That's
don't.
yeah, that's a sign. You got to enjoy it. How do you just be in the? How long have you been in the sport now?
15 years.
Yeah, you can only do that if you enjoy it. Enjoy the training, enjoy the racing, enjoy the injuries, enjoy the recovery, and you got to enjoy that, and it's got to be part of your lifestyle. And I think
You
far
don't,
too
you don't
often,
enjoy it all.
no, there's parts that you don't like, but you and I both know it's like to be in the sport for a long period of time. You got to be having fun, and you got to be looking forward, for training or races or whatever it is. But
So I don't know the word in psychology where you basically reward yourself when you do something that's good for you that you don't really enjoy.
I think that's just positive or negative reinforcement.
Some kind of positive reinforcement. So I was talking to a student today, and she's a swimmer, and we're talking about like how I really don't enjoy swimming that much. And what I've been doing lately is, especially on my, I don't know, when I'm swimming by myself, which is even harder, is I'll give myself some French fries afterwards.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah,
I'm like, that's my treat. Like, I enjoy French fries. I don't really have them very often. And so if I go, because I've been swimming a lot at lunch, and so go for my lunch swim and then get some fries afterwards.
yeah.
And it's like, it's a little treat for something that I know I need to do. And
Mhm.
and I actually enjoy like getting to the pool now and getting in.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
used to really
You're
enjoy
gonna
it when
get your French fries. I love it.
but now I got this thing at the end where okay, I'm gonna get some fries.
Yeah,
And um so sometimes we can have some things that we don't enjoy as much, but we
yeah,
can
that's right.
and another thing I enjoy racing fast. So one of the things I gotta do to enjoy that is I gotta train. And sometimes the train is not super enjoyable,
Hmm.
but I want to at the end there's the goal. So
No, I love it. Well, good stuff.
yeah, thanks, John. It's nice to get back at this, and we'll try and get more consistent here as we
Yeah, we will. Hopefully we can. That'll be good. All right. Well,
awesome.
hey, have a great weekend of training.
You too, and we'll see you at the race on Sunday.
We got that race on Sunday. That'll be fun.
We'll see you at that.
All right. Thanks, everyone.